well this Wednesday, the 5th of November, fireworks night as it was. So I hope we're all doing extremely well today. I hope we're all doing extremely well today. Sorry, I was just checking on the stream live there, because I know what YouTube is like. It tries to do me over at the best of times. So anyway, welcome to the United Devil channel with me, JB. I hope we're all doing extremely well today, this afternoon. Apologies, I was going to go live a little bit earlier on, but I then realised I had to do something and quickly go and do that instead. So where we are, Wednesday the 5th. Remember the 5th of November. Fireworks night here in the UK. So stay safe tonight, people, because I know tonight we'll have many fireworks displays. If you're new to the channel, I'm JB. The one thing I will say is be respectful in the chat. Be respectful to each other. Be respectful to me. Be respectful to this community. This is a community that we've built. Big up to Scotty, 2 months a member, JB. Big up. Scott is an absolute legend of the channel. Danny B is in the house, also a legend of this channel. Good morning, my friend. I hope you're doing extremely well. Scotty B, big shout out to you, my friend. United Super Devil, 2 months member, absolute legendary. And thank you guys for all the support, as you always do. As I always start off and say, look, I'm not the dictator of this chat. It's not my opinion. And that's the end of it. I'm just like you. I'm a fan. I've got my opinion, and I will give my opinions. I'll bring topics into the show, and you give your opinions as well. This is why the show does take so long, because I do genuinely read out your chats, each one. There are super chats and all that sort of stuff on here as well. But the value to me is talking to you guys and getting in your opinion. So where are we at today? The stream seems good. Let me know if the stream drops, and I am talking about obviously the YouTube stream, not any other stream. Breaking news, or it was breaking bloody news this morning. I haven't been able to get on, and what do I mean by that? Jason Wilcox did an interview, and that's been doing the rounds. It was breaking this morning. I did try to get on earlier to bring you the news. We can talk about it as well. I think there's some really interesting things. Talking about what he let me adjust this. Amateur hour by me. So we can get into all that as well. We'll talk about the Wilcox interview. Just to bear this in mind, it is an MUTV interview, so it's all going to be a feel good factor. It always is that feel good factor. But so again, we take it with a pinch of salt, as it was. But there are some really interesting things. I think there's some good things. I think there's some bad things. Not bad things, but I think there are some things that are quite obvious to me when we're talking about this club. So Elliot Anderson as well. Martinez, there's a story doing the rounds, and I wonder if this is true. I really hope it isn't. It would be an absolute ridiculousness if it is true. I really hope that it's not. But I am going to. I wonder. I just wonder if this is true, and I'm going to give my opinion on it. I'm going to give not Luke Shaw a shout out here, but I'm going to be really consistent on where I am with it all as well. So let's start off. I think it's fair to start off. Let's do the easy topics first, because then I think we'll spend some time then talking about the Jason Wilcox interview. Milky Way, crispy roll. I used to like those. I did used to like those. I don't know what's going on with this at present. I know we're quite small, but the numbers today on this channel are really quite low. I don't know if it's. I don't know. I know we're a smaller channel. We are small, but we are the best. But these numbers are really low. So I don't know what is happening here. I just don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. Let me try something, because I just don't know what's fluctuating. It is ridiculous. I just don't know. I just don't know what is. YouTube is just every single time YouTube always tries to screw me over, and I don't know what is going on. So I've got the thing next to me there, so I do try to check it out. Maybe in work or busy, but kids up to no good. No, it's I don't know. I don't know. It is something, I'm sort of. I know the sort of numbers, and it's something definitely not right. I don't know if it's on a subscriber only mode. I don't know, but it is not good. But anyway, on with the show as it was. So, look, where are we this morning? So, yesterday, Elliot Anderson. So let's start talking about that, and we'll see where we are in regards to that. It's not ridiculous, mate. I don't know what is going on. Anyway, so Elliot Anderson. So let's start talking about Elliot Anderson. So where are we on it? So there were reports last night, and again, give me your opinions because we've been talking about this every single day, and this does actually link into the Wilcox stuff actually. Because I think there's some interesting things that was said there as well. So, reports last night, Elliot Anderson. So what are we looking at? What are we talking about with him? So there are reports that we are confident that we're going to put a bid in of £80 million. Now, there were some other reports that Forest were going to look to get it in a region of around that £120 million mark. So the fact that we are talking, and there are reports now talking from Nottingham Forest, around about that £80 million mark. Now the funny thing here, and as well, this is very, very much like the summer, is that there are contrary reports to that say that United are confident that we can get a deal done for in and around that £60 million mark. So again, there's going to be an automatic disparity between what Forest want and what United are willing to pay. Now, is this a case of we're going to meet in the middle, and we are going to then, look to try to get a deal around that 70 million mark? Now, and I can only go from what reports. Give me your opinions on this as well. Is that apparently we've got the money to do it? So there are reports out there saying that we've got the money ready to go, and we are prepared to invest in this coach. We are prepared to break in. Now, again, yeah, so we are looking at bringing a midfielder in. Now, of all the midfielders available, I'd be interested to know who would you go for? Would you go for an Anderson, Stiller, a Baleba? Now, yesterday I would have gone for him on the basis that I don't think that Anderson is a gettable target. But listening to these reports, listening to Rúben Amorim, apparently he's obsessed by this player. If you saw the game on the weekend as well, then you will know that he went up to him, was talking to him, smiling, and Elliot Anderson's head has been turned. Scott says Steeler would be a cheap and good option. I think he would be. Now, again, when I go through the quotes from Mr. Wilcox, this sort of does feed into that a little bit. Now, I do agree that Steeler would be a good option. But spoiler alert, now the strategy of the footballing side, and we're talking about a Favel, we're talking about an Omar Barada, we're talking about Wilcox, is that they're looking for plug-in and play players. So this comes back to basically what Ineos are looking to do. They're looking for these plug-in and play players. Now, Stiller, for whatever we think about him, I think as Wirtz has proven, and I think we have to be not mindful, but I do think we have to be sort of thoughtful on this, is that, you look at Wirtz come in for massive money in the Bundesliga. Absolutely fantastic player. Now he's come in for massive money, and he's taking him time to. Now, whilst I do agree, and I'll still look at Stiller, I think we do have to, if we're spending that sort of money on a midfielder, I'm still of the opinion that we have to, at the moment, until we get it right. I think Premier League proven. You can argue that Anderson's been proving it for a season. I still think that we still need to be very mindful of the players that we sign. So I think Anderson, for me, if you can get him in and around that 70 million mark, I think he would be a fantastic sign. You know, we've gone through his stats many times. I really like the player as an all-round player. I think this is something that we could do. And as I said yesterday, we're now going to see what Ineos are made of. We're going to see, and again, I have to separate out this Ineos side, that there is a strong feeling, as you all know, that I have for this Ineos. The Glazers, they are all puppet. Scott says definitely something wrong. The numbers are low today. Yeah, there is definitely something wrong. I don't know what it is. You know, I'm not bigging up us on here too much. I know we are relatively small, but these numbers are really low today. I don't know what it is. We'll continue with the show anyway. But these numbers are really low today. I don't know. YouTube, this sometimes happens. I don't know what is happening with it. Today, the numbers are very low. And it's even just kicked me out as well. So, I don't know, Scott. The numbers are very low today. We'll just continue with the show. There's no point complaining about it. It is what it is. And yeah, the notifications seem to be working absolutely fine. Let me just see. Let me just check. Yeah, I don't know. YouTube, to me, is a mystery to me. I don't always know or understand what is going on with it all the time. So I think Anderson for me, Elliot Anderson for me, is definitely who I would go for. I just wonder if we can get this deal done and over the line. So that's where I'm at on that deal. Do I think it's going to happen? I mean, getting your opinions on that. Do you think it's going to happen? As I said, we've got to be careful about spin, but these reports today are absolutely adamant, super adamant, that we are in for this player. I don't know what it's doing. Switch accounts. Let's just do that. Scott says it's too much for someone who's had a good season. I think, Scott, as always, you do make a good point. You know, we don't know. And I think this is, would you, you know, my question here would would you take a chance on an Anderson or a Steeler? You know, Steeler, one thing we do have to think about Steeler for me, is taking that chance. You know, is it worth taking a punt on because Steelers not going to be cheap. Stuttgart will enact that 2 million clause that they have for this player. That this player will be then come 65 million pounds based on, and they're going to want nowhere near, but they are going to inflate that price based on his performances, based on the United tax, based on what Wirtz went for as well. So we are looking and talking about this player. So it will be worth in around 60 million, or if you could get Anderson for around that 70 million pound mark. I think, looking at the stats, I think Anderson has done it in the Premier League. Scott, I think Scott makes some really good points here. But for me, I'm absolutely all over this Anderson deal. For me, that would be the one that I would go forward. There are funds in place, and I do think he would be a very, very transformative signing. Scott says, to be honest, both of them are a risk, and at the end of the day, they could flop or come in and hit the... Exactly, Scott. Exactly, Scott. Or we just don't know. We just don't know. So I do think you make some really, really good points there. The other thing I wanted to talk about, now, I think for me, this is a divisive topic, and I really would love to know opinions on this, because I think I'm I'm massively annoyed, and I think that this is something that Fergie wouldn't do. Now, Martinez. So Martinez hasn't kicked the ball this season. Now, this is going to the other channels that are out there who've been saying, "Oh, Martinez is back." You know, these massive channels have been going out there saying, "Oh, Martinez is back. He's back. He's back training. The guy's back." Leading with the thumbnail. "Oh, Martinez, he's back." Well, he's not fucking back, is he? Right? So he's not back, and there's been no acknowledgement of that statement, basically saying that, you know, Amorim has even said he's not back. He's not going to be back for the Spurs game. He hasn't played a football for a year, been out for the best part of 2 years. So now, saying that, first of all, to clarify that, Martinez is not fucking back, right? And it's bugged me, and this is my rant. Now, there are reports and there are lots of things out there saying that Martinez could now go away in the international break to link up with his Argentinian friends. I mean, I heard this and my immediate thoughts were of Luke Shaw. You know, and I am going to be fair here. Now, I know, you know, there are many reasons why people will think, you know, maybe that's a good idea. You know, maybe go and train with some international players, you know, go and train, because I think being at Carrington for 2 weeks, you know, is it conducive to a recovery? You know, he's not going to be, you know, high impact. He's not going to be impactful at Carrington. Or is it better for him to fly away on a plane, to go away for best part of 2 weeks, to go into an Argentinian setup where there's no control, where United have no control, where Argentina, you know, these players, you know, they live and die for the badge. My take on it is this: what the F are we doing? Whoever thinks that is a good idea, I think should be taken round the back and just absolutely just. I can't say because this video will get banned. I struggle. Again, I struggle with this club. I don't know what they're doing. Are we seriously suggesting we're going to let a player who hasn't even kicked the ball for this club go away, fly away on international break? You know, this guy, it's no good to go on a long haul flight, then come back. You know, yes. Bobby says, "Hello. Hi, Bobby, legend of the chat. I hope you're doing extremely well." So are we seriously going to let Martinez go away on international break to get some training time in with players that, you know, imagine you've got a Romero, or you've got an Argentinian league player, or you've got other players who are, and we know how intense they are, we know how passionate they are. And as Scott says there, one tackle is game over. Martinez is not even playing full yet. And we're going to go and we're going to allow him to go away and play internationally or train away from the club. I mean, if this was Luke Shaw, right, all I'm going to say, and I'm going to be fair here, if this was Luke Shaw, and I have criticised him for this, I think probably yesterday as well, criticised the guy for putting England before the club. We pay these players fucking wages. We pay the wages of these players. Fergie would have never have allowed it. Now, I'm not harking back to the Ferguson days. You know, I think he's right. This player hasn't played for 2 years, and we're seriously going to let him fly around the world. Now, yes, we can argue about the ramifications, or there is a deeper point here about mental health, and the fact that he could probably do him the world of good to go away and start to be in that football environment again with his friends. For me, it's an absolute no. For me, it's I think it will be irresponsible of this club. I think it would be a ridiculousness of this club to allow Martinez to go away. Now, this was Luke Shaw, and he did. Luke Shaw didn't kick a football, right? He went to the Euros with England, barely played, and then come back and injured. Can you imagine a situation, right, where, and I do have my opinions on this player, where I don't necessarily think he's going to be the YouTube algorithm is against you today. I don't know what's going on, mate. I don't know what is going on today with this stream. Don't know, mate. It hates me today. I have no idea what's going on. It is not good today. I know these numbers. The last 2 days, yesterday as well, last night as well, the numbers are not great. I don't know, mate. I don't know what's going on. Who knows what's going on? The algorithm is not my friend today. So I don't know now if these are going into YouTube Shorts. That's the reason why I do this format. I don't know, but we'll continue to the show. I will stream even if it's to one person. I'll stream even if it's just me. Let's just get it. So look, Martinez. I don't know. I think we pay his wages. I think we put our foot down on this one, and we say to him, "You are not going away. You've not played football for 2 years. If this was Luke Shaw, I'd be tearing him a new one. Not that he's listening, not that he would care, but I would tear him a new one, and I have done. But I think because this fan base is under this illusion that Martinez is going to come back and be the answer to our prayers, is going to, a guy that's been out for 2 years is going to be the answer to our prayers. I think is crazy. I think it's a step too far. And I don't know. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe that this player is going to be, the saviour of this club. So look, that's where we are, and that's where we're at with that one. Jason Wilcox. So let's talk about Wilcox. Let's go through all of that good stuff as well, because there is quite a bit to get through. Scott says, I'm good, just chilling with the kids. Legends of this chat, of course you guys are. So Wilcox. Now Wilcox did an interview with the MUTV. I can't remember her name, but he did one with the MUTV podcast show thing, and Phil Jones was on there as well. The absolute elite player that Phil Jones is. So he did an interview, talking about the club. I've got some stuff that he said about the team, spoke about the team, and we'll go through that as well, and I'll give you some quotes about him. So Wilcox spoke at length about the behind-the-scenes improvement being made. He touched upon this summer transfer window, which they think is already paying off already. We can get our opinions in on that. And he basically, concludes the conversation that he had with a basically nod to those who turn it up every single week, and the long-term benefit to the club. So what did he say? So first of all, he basically said the fans have been incredible in this period. There's been a lot of frustration not winning for a long time, and the way that they've stuck with the players, the way they stuck with the manager and the leadership. I think the fans have been incredible like no other. Is the stream fine for you and Bobby? I think the stream seems okay here. It's just YouTube fucking hates me today, but that's fine. I don't know where Wilcox, first of all, is the fans have been incredible in a period. There's been lots of frustration, not winning for a long time. The way they've stuck with the players and the manager. Are you kidding me? I don't know where he gets his reports from. The numbers don't add up. The mod show gets decent numbers. They don't add up. The mod today show gets decent numbers. I don't know, mate. There's definitely something wrong today. I don't know. There's definitely something up today with this stream. Look, such is what's been happening over the last couple of days. I don't know. The mod day show. Look, I don't know what's going on. Who knows? Let's just get through this show. And I don't know what's going on today. The last couple of days has been a little bit weird. But as we do, we always progress through. That is what we do here. We absolutely endure. You never know. Maybe people are just sick of the channel. It can happen. But these numbers are not great today. But let's just see what happens. So look, Jason has basically said, look, he's thanked the fans for their patience. I'm sorry, Wilcox. I don't know what you've been listening to. I don't know what bollocks you've been fed, but I don't think you've been watching this fan base. There have been so many because we won 3 games. I get it. I get that we're trying to be positive, and is he now talking because we've won 3 games and a draw that now the fans have been amazing? I would have loved him to have come out and been listening to such champers. Brilliant numbers. We won 3 games. I wonder if he'd have had the same opinion after the Grimsby game, because he's talking out of his butt there. I like the fact that he's giving the fan. Look, anybody that gives props to the fans, that's fine. But I'm sorry, I'm not having that. This fan base has not been behind this manager and behind this team. I've not been behind this team. I've been frustrated. I've been behind the coach. I've been called all sorts. I've been behind this coach. As many of you have had faith in this coach, but there's been a significant majority of people, even now after the draw, are hammering it out again. So I don't know what information. Sir Jim has obviously been given numbers that are not true. So I don't know what this guy. I think he's talking about these 3 games. If we lose to Spurs, is he going to come back out and is he going to say like a different thing again? So this is where we've got to be careful here. He went on to say match day is an experience before the game when the whole stadium is singing Country Roads. For anyone not to feel emotional and the hairs on the back of your neck, they stand up. Next thing he goes on to say, all we're doing now is making sure that we make decisions for the football club and not for the benefit, not for the short-term protection of ourselves. We're making some really bold decisions for the future of this club. United is bigger than any player, any manager, any staff member. We are custodians, if you like, and we've just got to understand at some point our journey will end. Well, holy F. What have I been saying on here? Whenever I talk about the Glazers, and I never give myself any props, right? But I've been saying that word custodian. Go back and watch any of the videos that I've done. I always say, this is the one thing that I always say, is that even though the Glazers, Ineos, these people think they own the club, all they are is custodians of this club. Scott says this guy is an absolute. I agree with you completely. I've been saying this for the longest time, right? And I'm just a guy who has an opinion, right? I've been saying, and if you go back, these creeps, these cockroaches might be the owners, but they are custodians of this club. That's all they are. This club will be here, hopefully, long after they've gone, until the next person comes and owns this club. Now, I like what he's saying there. There is nothing there that we don't know. So Jackie says, good evening, Sir Jackie. I hope you're doing extremely well, my friend. Welcome to the chat, my friend. Just in time for the Wilcox bonanza, the Wilcox bonanza. So look, he said it again. All we are doing is making sure that we make decisions for the football club that are in the benefit, not for the short-term protection of ourselves. We're making some really bold decisions for the future of the club. United is bigger than any player, any manager, any staff member. We are custodians, if you like. We've just got to understand that at some point our journey will end. I like it. And I like what he's saying there. I do. I've basically been saying that. We've been talking about that on here for the longest time. That's something that we've spoken about here for the longest time. I've used that word custodian for the longest time. Go way back. The one thing I've said about this effing club is that all these leeches, the Glazers, Ineos are custodians. They think they own it. In some respects, they do. But this club will endure. It always has. So I like what he's saying there. It makes sense. But we've been saying that on here for the longest time. So there's nothing new there. There's nothing revolutionary about what he's saying there. There's nothing new. There's nothing that I go, oh, the hairs on my neck are standing up. Applauding him. Oh, what an amazing thing to say. So Jackie says, not being funny, have you thought about journalism? You don't create a false narrative, have the facts, and are willing to take a different opinion and consideration. Likeable guy too. Mate, look, thank you so much. All I need is an opportunity. It's very, very, very hard to get into, my friend. But I would absolutely need a opportunity. Look, mate, it's something that I'd love to do. I'd love to do this full time. It's something that I do love. It's something that I'm passionate about. I would love to do it. I just need to be given an opportunity and a platform. This is something that we've made together. And if we can get this bigger and bigger and bigger, we can promote this as much as we can. But look, I would love to do this. It's something that I would love to do. I just trying to do the best that I can to make this platform as big as we can for it, because the more that I can do on here, the more content I can bring, the bigger we can get, and the more interesting stuff that I can get. So Jackie, very, very kind of you, my friend, and I appreciate that a lot. So look, I'm not gonna applaud him. I don't care about United, but you're good to watch. Better punditry here than any TV show. Look, again, mate, I thank you. I think that's very, very kind. I just try to do my best. And if it's something that you think, then I'm doing something right. But again, the only reason I can do this is because of you guys. So I can only thank you and say thank you, really. Next thing he said, we need to make sure that when we leave this football club, whenever that is, and I hope I'm here for a long, long time, this football club is in a much better position. All I'm going to say to that is Well, I mean, what do you want me to say? We need to make sure that when we leave this football club, whenever that is, and I'm here, I hope I'm here for a long, long time. This is a football club that is in a much better position. I don't think we could be in a worse position. Could we? Look, the fact that we were run by bankers for the longest of times, the fact that we had bankers, non-football people in charge of this club, are we in a better position than we were? You can argue yes. It's not difficult. It wasn't difficult to get this club into a position that is better. If you look at how we were run, the amount of money that Wilcox, this is a guy. Okay, so this is a guy that, and this has been missed. I think this has been missed for quite some times. Omar says, "Are United going to win the league in 3 years?" Now, Omar, I first read that, and you put United and win the league in a sentence, right? I was just about, Omar. This is not your fault, my friend. As I say on here, I do respect people's opinions. I was not going to go off, but I was going to say United and winning the league. Now, I'm glad you clarified and said in 3 years' time, because I think that is a better question, as we've seen for the last week or so. And what's really, really funny is now bigger channels have swept it underneath the carpet, as they do, because they put out a load of crap, people consume it, and then because we've drawn a game, we're suddenly not going to win the league. Now, I wish these bigger channels would effing own it and basically say, we put out there, can we win the league? And the answer to that is absolutely not now. Now, Omar, I think that's a better question. Are we going to win the league in 3 years' time? No. Not unless this football club heavily invests in this team. I'm going to be fair here. I support the manager. I do, and I have done for the longest time. I got absolutely blitzed and battered when Grimsby game, and I said I come out and I supported the coach for many reasons. And unless we look, and I'm not absolutely convinced that Amorim is the guy. Now, I support the manager. He needs to be given time, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I fully know what Amorim does. I fully support. He may not be the guy. I really wish that he is, but Omar, we've got to heavily invest in this team. We spoke about at the top of the show, Anderson. That would be an intention, whether or not, hopefully he succeeds if we were to buy him. But we need to go and get the players of intent. We need to go get these players. And if we back this coach and if we back this team, then we need to do it again in the summer. We need to do it again the next window. We need to do it again the next window. So for us, in my opinion, I would say this as, are we going to win the league in 3 years? No. I think the better way to phrase it for me is, are we going to be competitive or competing for the Premier League in 3 years? And I would like to think so. I think for me, I think that we absolutely need to compete for the league in 3 years' time. I think if not, then Amorim has then had enough time, in my opinion, and then we then may need to think. I'm not saying you look at Arteta. I think Arteta is a good benchmark in some respects. Is that if this team is consistently competing, then in my opinion, yes. And Omer says, is Amorim's is it good? I like Amorim. Omar, I don't know. Is the question. So for me, conceptually, is the project good? I like the project. I do like the project. But unless you give him the building blocks, he can't fulfill it. And is he going to be given time? Imagine situation, and I'm going to play the both sides here. Imagine now if Amorim goes and loses the next 6 games. The project is worthless, because if he's then going to say win 3 games on the trot, draw 1, and then lose 5, it's a very tempestuous time. So I think it's a very, very good question. I think I want to see us be competitive. So next is, I support my team. I'm not interested in any others, but I do think it's shocking how the board has ruined a club like United. You can't go from being that good to the opposite for no reason. Exactly as I've said in the chat before, Bobby, it's the same as my club. Not interested in interesting. Chipplay says, hi JB, hello, I hope you're doing extremely well. I see if Roy Keane was the assistant, would you see a major change in the team? No, I don't. I just don't see it. The reason why, look, I don't think Keane is right. I just don't think he's right. But where I would agree in somewhat with somebody like Roy Keane is not a fan of this club, right? He's an ex-player, and Roy Keane summed it up, and I think Roy Keane speaks a lot of sense. What Roy Keane basically said was that, when he watches us, he watches us not as a fan, but he just watches the games, right? And he says he doesn't lose sleep. If we lose, he doesn't lose sleep over it. He's a Spurs fan. The reason why he's got an opinion on it is because as an ex-player, he knows how the club works. And I would much rather somebody who used to play for the club, who understands what it is to play for the club. And I imagine that Roy Keane was never a fan of this club, and he's not a fan now, right? But he would come in and he would look at it from a United perspective, knowing what it is to play for the club, but not this lovey-dovey-eyed player who support this club. I would much rather somebody like a Roy Keane. I don't think Keane per se would be good. I would just rather that character, that somebody who knows what it's like to play for the club, but then also somebody that has standards to come in. So yeah, I think the concept of that, I like it, but just not Keane. For me, Chip says if Keane was in charge, half of our players would be hospitalised. Him and Souness, Duncan Ferguson, they wouldn't have a youth team. Big Sam and Roy Keane would be ridiculous, right? So hi, City fan here, of course. Recognise the name. So welcome here as always. So yeah, the fact that Wilcox is saying that they've put the football club in a better position. I mean, the fact that Woodward isn't here anymore, the fact that the Tweedledum and Tweedledee are not here as well, Arnold and Murta, the fact that those 2 plonkers are not here either. So again, look, he's saying the right things, but I'm not I'm not having the hairs on my neck stand up. And I don't think it's anything that we don't know. Amorim says the mission is now starting to bear fruit, and particularly in his own department and state-of-the-art training ground. Omar says Solskjaer had a project and it didn't work. Do you think Amorim is going to be the same? It depends. It depends on if he's back, Omar. I think that's a good question. Now, is he going to be backed? And that is the question here. Omar, and I think Jackie's right. He says you've got to put it into perspective that other teams are also getting better, so the Premier League is becoming harder to succeed in. I think we also have to take into account as well, this is a different football structure. There wasn't one in place. Solskjaer, and I think Bobby's right, Solskjaer isn't the quality of the manager that we need. You know, I know finishing and Ollie ball and all this stuff, but you know, I don't buy into that. You've got to look at the state of the football club. While the football club is still in a state, you know, you had non-football people in charge of this club as well. So it is completely. We had a scattergun approach, right? I think we are slightly scattergun no matter what he says here. So I think that it's almost a different era. Solskjaer had I don't think United had a plan. Solskjaer just came in and was coach told to use these players. I don't think there was a plan. So I think that Amorim could succeed more because I think there is an semblance or a belief that there is a strategy now in place. And I do think that there are football people at this club who are genuinely trying to make things better. So I think Amorim, for me, I think is a better coach. Many people would disagree with that statement. I do think that Amorim is a far superior coach. And I do think Amorim will be able to succeed based on the structure, is whether or not he's given time or the players. Sunderland are fourth and they only went through a playoff, didn't even win the league. Exactly. So let's get on to some more quotes. Wilcox then says, I really feel now football club is moving in the right direction. That is my own personal view. This is not biased view because I'm working here. Total crap. On the basis that, look, this is your view. You are biased because you work here. You can't say that. You can't say that you are not biased. Do I think the club is moving? I think the way that the club is moving is the way that it has to move to survive. You know, yes, the club. The fact that he's coming out and saying that, look, again, I think he's saying the right things, right? I mean, for a club our size, why aren't we doing this? Why is it only now after 13 years that we're now moving in the right way? You know, when Wilcox came in and he basically said, and this is out there and this has been missed. Wilcox came into this club and basically said that there was no link between the football inside, no link between no link between the Glazers, the owners, the management, the players, the youth, right? For 13 years, probably even more than that. And now he's saying that, you know, the club of our size, you know, we're apparently, according to the Glazers, we're worth £6 billion. A £6 billion behemoth of a club is now, only now in his opinion, moving in the right way. I mean, it's embarrassing. You know, this is a fluff piece. And the things that he's saying, look, I get it. You know, he's a puppet, right? I don't doubt this club is now trying to move in a way with a structure that's right. But the fact it's only doing it now, it's scary. It scares me to death. I think it's so scary. Question: when will United grow a backbone when it comes to slamming and rejecting clubs' unrealistic valuations of players every time they're interested in players? You know, and again, we call this the United tax, right? And where this has come from is historically we've been bad at buying players. You know, you look, Anthony, Pogba, Sancho. You know, we have gone in and it's accepted throughout the business, it's accepted throughout the transfer world that our business that we do is horrendous. We can't negotiate. The negotiators that we have or had were terrible because they know that we pay the prices. This is why our name constantly gets linked to players. Because the moment that they think we're linked to players, now that's when the price increases. That's when the price is up. And I just think historically we've been really, really bad. So we've always overpaid for players. You know, we've been a victim of our own success in the past. Traditionally, we've always been the richest club, well, in England for the last X amount of years. We've won leagues. So if we want people's players, then we need to pay a premium for that. And that's continued. Our negotiations have been awful. And I do think now what we are seeing is we're trying to buck that trend. So I think as a question, I think it's a fantastic question. And I do think we are trying to buck that trend, but I do think it's very, very difficult. Omar says, I think going to Europe this season is realistic. Like Omar, it is. I think as a demand, I think it should be. I think it's a very, very realistic demand. But we're too inconsistent. I think this league is ridiculously competitive. I think we're underestimating how competitive this league is this season. Everybody can beat anybody. We've got one game a week, and I agree with you. Should we be able to finish in the European? Yes, we should. Are we? We're going to find that out. Dennis Asher says we should go and grab Jeremy Monga, super player under 16, and shut down a transfer rumour due to the club's asking price to send a message. The price for Anthony was criminal. They paid it, no problem, and let him leave for pennies compared to what was paid. I think the problem isn't in the players. The problem is the ecosystem in the club is really toxic. Omar, again, I think you are raising some fantastic points. I think it's a perfect storm, Omar. I really do believe that. I think it is first and foremost that the problem is symptomatic of a toxic club. I think the problem is from top to bottom, toxicity, rotten to the core. Ineos are puppets of the Glazers. The Glazers are still in charge of this club, and it is toxic. We've got debt coming out of our eyes. No, that is now forgotten because we've won 3 games. We're looking to buy Anderson. We're looking to do all this stuff. What we do in this club is we put layers on top of layers. So you've got the Glazers who are still in charge of this club. Let's not be fooled, okay? And what they've done is they've put layers on top of layers on top of layers on top of layers on top of layers. Every single Amorim win or loss, every single time we win, lose, draw, every player we sign, every fluff piece that we do, including this one as well, there are layers of protection. The Glazers, no one's talking about them. And you're right. The fundamental problems at this club are the Glazers and Ineos getting into bed and keeping these cockroaches here. Secondary is the players. We have seen this time and time again. Light switch players, low IQ players, low mentality players. I don't think, other than the Arsenal game, where I thought we played really, really well from start to finish. Other than Brighton, at times where, again, I thought we felt comfortable, but we nearly messed that up. I have not felt comfortable in a game. Neil B82 says, are United back? No, mate. No. Again, what we do on here, I respect people's opinion. Neil, do you think United are back? I don't think they're back. I think United are far from being back. Wilcox, goes on, and we'll talk about this, to the things that we are up to, right? The ways that we've changed now. Neil says, I think it's coming. Interesting, Neil. I don't. I think we talk a good game with these players. we've got inconsistent players, and until we purge the majority of these players, we're not coming back, right? So, for example, Wilcox is talking about, or Wilcox is talking about, and Neil, I will come on to that as well. Is that we're talking about a team that finished 15th last season. We're talking about, Wilcox talks about the methods that we use and the things that we do. Brighton have been doing it for years. Sunderland are doing it. Bournemouth are doing it. City have been doing it for years. Arsenal. So Neil, look, can I ask what is needed then? So, okay. So let's look at it, right? So let's look at, so we've got £1.2 billion worth of debt. And I think we need to start there, Neil. I think we absolutely have to start with the debt. It's a boring subject, but our hands are tied. We've got £1.2 billion worth of debt. If that was cleared, I would agree and be more inclined to say we can buy more players, right? The first thing is the debt. Our hands are tied. Limited players, right? Our hands are tied. So I think having that debt cleared. Second of all, we've got a team that finished 15th last season, right? We've got a team that finished 15th last season. We can argue that we're doing better in the league this season. The worrying thing for me at the present is I've only really seen us play. Neil says you can be in debt and still win things if you're playing. Look, Neil, I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm not going to disagree. We've been in debt since the Glazers owned us, and we've won things. I'm not going to disagree, but we are talking about, okay, so why, and this is just my opinion, why the debt never handcuffed us before and why it is now. Historically, we were always a richer club, so the debt didn't really impact us that much because the repayments were relatively quite low to the money that we earned. The problem is over the years, as you say, FFP. Players' wages have increased, so we've gone and we went and bought a bunch of players who were overpaid. We had that overpaid on players. We never got the returns back on those players. The stadium debt, which we now do have to pay for the stadium. Other clubs are now more competitive, so we need to try to keep pace with those clubs. Players are more expensive. So yes, I do agree that you can absolutely win things with debt, but we are coming to a point now where if you look at Liverpool, right? Liverpool went and spent £500 million. I think we need £1 billion spent on this team at least to become a competitive team. Players' wages, increased players, we wasted money. Agent fees, dividend payments. We're in debt and we need players to be competitive, right? So that is the first thing, debt. We don't have a squad. Our squad is nowhere near. Our squad is nowhere near winning a title. You look at Arsenal. You look at what Arsenal are doing. They are relentless this season. They're winning games. You look at us this season. We've only really been, in my opinion, competitive in glimpses of games. We may have won games, and in those games that we've won, have we been really convincing? I'm going to say we've only been convincing, in my opinion, in the Brighton game, where I felt comfortable. We are a team away. So Neil B says, "What a good season." So a good season to me, right now, is anything 10th and above. Now, some people are going to say, well, I want European football. We finished 15th last season. I think, realistically, You know, and I'm with Scott. You know, Scott says European football. If we win an FA Cup, finished 8th back in European football, I'm with Scott, right? If you're looking at this team and you go, you know, really, we've got international players. We've added some good attacking players into the squad. We play one game a week. Should we be aiming for 6th? 100%. 100%. Agreed. But I think our expectation of going from 15th to Champions League spaces, for me, I think is crazy. I said this at the very start of the season. I think it's going to be a very, very up and down season. We've got inconsistent players. Look, the manager is playing Luke Shaw still. The manager, and Omar says the AFCON as well. Now, we needed to strengthen in our centre midfield. We just didn't. And again, Wilcox talks about that, and we can talk about that as well. So whilst I agree, we are starting to turn up the notch when we're starting to do stuff. We are so far behind. We're so far behind the other top teams that I don't think we're anywhere. We're nowhere near, in my opinion, challenging consistently for top 4. We're nowhere near consistently challenging for top 6. We're nowhere near in a race for the Premier League. And I know where this has come from. I've seen thumbnails of channels, bigger channels, and it pisses me off. You know, trying to drag us into a conversation because we won 3 games on the basis of how inconsistent we are, how badly we've played. Look, we've played 10 games. We've not been good. We've been okay. I think we've been okay. But there is this up and down. Like, are we anywhere near a league title? No. Could we get into the Champions League spaces? Yes, we could. But we need consistency. I think we need to go buy a midfield player, possibly 2, and then we can have the conversation. Again, do I think we are improving? Yeah. But we're only gonna sustain a top 4. I think our best bet, and this will be an overachievement completely, if we aim for top 5, top 4, then I think possibly we could then possibly aim for that. But in my opinion, even suggest that we're back, even suggest we're close to being back. And look, I'm not pulling your opinion out. I think it's a really, really interesting view. You know, again, I value people's opinions, and I think these sorts of questions are fantastic. Genuinely, I'm not pulling your opinion down. If that's what you think, then that's great. But I just have a really strong opinion on this, and I am of the opinion that I think we still finish in and around that 10th to 8. The more consistency we get, if we get to Christmas time, because don't forget the games are going to come thick and fast. If we get to Christmas and just after, and we're still in that top 4 chat all day, every day, we'll at that point be we are now in this race. But we have to get ourselves, and we have to be consistent in that race. But I think, Neil, I think that's a fantastic question, mate. I do. I think it poses a really, really good question. Scott says a good season and an FA Cup run. Chelsea also sell their academy products. They do. I think AFCON is going to ruin everything, says Omar. That's because they buy them for nothing, learn them to boost their value, and sell them for more than what they pay. It's just easy way to avoid FFP. Jamie Vargas, legend of the chat. Good morning, JB from Texas. Is Anderson worth 80 million? I would say 65 to 70. Look, we can go back over that. Do I think Anderson is worth 80 million? There was conversation, there was chat earlier in the week of 120 million pounds for the player. Nah, never. Now, at 80 million, again, you could probably argue that is that too much, or is that the sort of starting price? United, according to reports, are looking. They think that they can get this play for around 60 million. I think you're going to get him for between 70, 75 million. Do I think he's worth it? It's difficult to say. It's difficult to say. Judging by his stats, yes. But as Scott has already said in here, you never know. So I think it's difficult. I think if you're taking a step back and go, is he worth it? Possibly. It's difficult with any player. You know, the moment, imagine we buy him for 80 million and he has a bad first 3 games. People are going to be calling him a flop. So I think that if we do go and spend this money on this player, then I think we need to be very, very mindful and very, very careful to protect this player. Let's have a little look. Jamie Vug says we'll finish 8th. Scott says we will be back with more consistency. Frigable says Ollie, Ollie, Ollie. How much room is there on FFP? Now, the thing with FFP, the thing that we do with FFP is very, 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 very tricky. I don't know the stats. I'd have to look at how much room there is on FFP, but apparently we're absolutely fine. So the last time I looked at this, I think there was around 200 million. We could spend 200 million pounds, because what we do with FFP is basically we have a value on the stock exchange, but we use another company in an offshore bank account or an offshore company called Red One, and we manipulate FFP through that. So in terms of FFP, we're absolutely fine. We could spend 200 million pounds, I believe, in a window, and we'd be absolutely fine. So I think that, and when I say that, I mean 200 million pounds in cash. So I think we need to be very, very careful here. I think there is enough headroom there on FFP purely because we manipulate the stats. But as you've already said, Neil, you know, you can do things with debt. Debt is not necessarily a bad thing, but we can still do some stuff. So Jackie says, I'll tell you how bad United are. This isn't a dig. You played in Europe, took 88 minutes for Bruno to score the winning goal, and you've been SHRT for years. Usually it's easy 4-0 at least. No need to apologise. Look, Bruno Fernandes, you know, again, this is not about him, but yeah, you know, we are not the team. I do think you make a good point. United has to pay premium for players. Kevin McGee, legend. Anderson was average against us, 75 passing, 30% crossing, 50% long ball, 25% air duels, 50% along the ground. Not right. Now, Kevin, I have a different opinion. And again, Kevin, look, respect your opinion. Whenever we talk about this stuff, you know, I give my opinion, you give yours, and we don't have to agree on stuff, right? Those were the stats, and again, I've not checked the stats, but I can only go by what you say. Even though maybe on stats he was like an average player, he was still far superior to any midfielder that we had. Now, I don't always, like, I will talk about stats on here. I'll always prefix a new stat as a guide. The eye test for me, I watched the game. I don't know if you guys watched the game. It was on the embargoed, but I managed to watch the game. Anderson on the eye test didn't lie. Anderson ran that midfield. Anderson was better than any of the midfielders that we had. So I think that for me, as much as, you know, you can bring stats, I watched the game. My eyes do not lie. Sometimes they do. But my eyes on this occasion, for me, told me that Anderson is a far superior, better player than anything that we've got. Now, arguing over 80 million, do I think that that's too much? I do think that probably is a slight too much. But if we want this player, then I think we need to pay a premium. So, you know, I think Anderson will rumble on. I think if we are going to get him, I think it's going to be in the region of 70 odd million pounds. His mind says, slam the transfer rumour of Anderson, please. He's not worth that even much, even if he is. United cannot be bullied into draining their pockets because of pressure. There's always another cheaper talent. I'll come back to that. Elliot Anderson doesn't start for England. I think he will eventually. I think Elliot Anderson goes to the World Cup. I do. I do think he will start. I think, Declan Rice, you could argue. I don't think Declan Rice is an out-and-out defensive midfielder. I think Anderson will. I think he will start. I do think he will. I think he's a very, very versatile defensive player, and I think he will start. So Jackie says, Fergie team against decent Rangers team, we lose every time. I watched it. I watched the game. I used to watch those games and agree with you. Kevin McGee says Casemiro was man of the match. Look, Kevin, I'm going to ask you, not because I'm going to ask you, Kevin, not because I'm trying to pull that opinion down. Did you watch the game? Look, I'm just asking you, did you watch the game? Not because I'm trying to call that opinion out. Look, they give man of the matches out. I don't care what they said. Casemiro was not the man of the match, in my opinion. He wasn't man of the match. Casemiro in that game looked okay. I can't remember what I said at the time. I'm telling you now. I watched the game, and again, Kevin, you can pick and choose who you believe is right. Casemiro for me was not the man of the match. He was nowhere near the man of the match. The man of the match for me would have been any Forest player. Not for me. Casemiro was nowhere near the man of the match. No. I mean, I would give it to Ahmad. Casemiro did not run that midfield. Bruno Fernandes wasn't great. The pivot didn't work. There were times when they ran through the midfield pivot. Casemiro for me was not man of the match. And Kevin, look, I'm not calling your opinion out. I'm just giving an opinion back, my friend. Casemiro for me was nowhere near man of the match in that game. Anybody else, but no. He says, who would you get rid of in the current starting line of? Who do I get rid of? I get rid of I'd get rid of Luke Shaw. I'd get rid of Dello. I'd get rid of him. I'd get rid of Luke Shaw. I'd get rid of Mason Mount. And when I say these plays, I'm talking. There are different reasons why I would. So I'd get rid of Luke Shaw, Dello. He'd go because he's awful. I'd get rid of Mason Mount. I would get rid of Maguire. I would get rid of. I'd get rid of Martinez. I'd get rid of Biinda. Ugarte. Fernandes, and I'd lose no sleep. And I would go and get a different team. And look, people can disagree with that. I'd get rid of Casemiro as well, and I would upgrade. Fernandes it is a difficult one for me. If he played in number 10, I would keep him, but obviously this is based on getting money. But all the other players, I would get rid of those players. If you could pick one City player to join, who are you picking and why, Bobby? Would I pick Haaland? I don't think I would pick Haaland. I'd probably pick Cherky, I think. I don't know who's playing in their midfield, but I would probably pick any midfield player that they've got. Haaland, for me, I wouldn't pick Haaland because I still don't think Haaland would have to take more of a Harry Kane role. Haaland wouldn't get the service. I would have Haaland, but I don't think he would get the service. So I think any midfield player I don't know if Cherki's a midfielder, but I like him a lot. I think any midfield player that they've got, I would take them. It says, if Amorim got sacked, do you think Cesc Fabregas would be a good manager? Omar, no. Look, mate, I appreciate the opinion. I'm not even talking about that right now, my friend. But I'll answer it simply, no, not for me. Being realistic, if you've got to sell a player and roughly their current value, what would your team be if it was like for like replacement? I would get Mendes as a wing back from PSG. So that means that Delo would go. I'd get him out. Ahmad, I'd want to keep Ahmad. I think I would like. I'd keep De Ligt, Euro in there as well. I can't really think of any young centre backs. I think I would keep those two, and I do think we need to upgrade on Luke Shaw. Heaven as well. I'd upgrade on him as well. And again, I need to look back on this. I need to look back and I don't think I'd want to go for an obvious centre back. I think I'd want to go for somebody who's on the cusp. Midfield wise, easy really. I think you're looking at an Anderson, Stiller, probably a Baleba for me. Even one of those. Baleba, Stiller, Anderson, Walton, Humland. I think that you could probably go for any one of those. My pick would be Stiller and Anderson, and then I think I'm happy. I'm happy with those front three. Cunha, Mbumo. I'm happy with those two. Striker wise, I like Šeško. I do like him. You can argue that Osimhen, probably bring him in. Maybe a Harry Kane. I like Šeško. I'm not, I like him. Do I think there's a better striker out there? Yes, I do. But I think I'd go for like an Osimhen. I'd want an out striker. Martinez used to be injury prone. Exactly that. So for me, Martinez and Mount, for me, I would get rid of those players because they are not the future. Injury prone player. So Jackie says Rodri, Tahini would fit so well. Would you have Rashford back? Neil B, no, not in a million years. We don't play that position. Rashford is not going to be a left. Rashford is not going to be a left wing back. Rashford is not going to play as a number 10. Rashford is a left forward. He's not going to come back. Not for me. Rashford, no, not for me. Why can't we follow Brighton? They buy obscure players and turn them into superstars. Where did Casido come from? They found him playing in the Ecuadorian league. Smart man, a good team player is better than one superstar. That's it. We need a team of hard workers. And then once you've got that, then you can build upon that. To be honest, I'd have Lisandro Martínez. Why do players leave who are crap and rip it up elsewhere? Environment, players. Højlund is doing well. I wouldn't say Højlund is ripping it up, right? Højlund is doing better. Højlund is doing much, much better. I do agree with Bobby to a degree and Jackie as well. Where I agree, they go to. I'm not a fan, and this is not a dig, Bobby. I think you're entitled to say that. I'm not a fan of calling leagues like a farmers league, right? You can call it whatever you like. But I think they are less competitive leagues. So I think I would say Rashford is doing better. There's clearly a talent there. There was never not a talent there with him. Do I think he's doing incredibly well? No, I think he's doing well. I think he's playing in one of the best teams in the Spanish league. I think he's having a good season. I don't think he's ripping it up. I don't think he's doing anything spectacular. I think Rashford is doing okay. I think Rasmus is doing okay. I think Rasmus is doing better. I think it's a combination of a different style of football with different players. I think probably better players who are giving them the ball and style of play. I think it is just a different style of play as well. Frugal Boy says McTominay. I think McTominay again, is he ripping it up? You could argue. Yes, he is. But he's in a different league. He's in a different team. There is this club, toxic club. So I'm not surprised these players go to different clubs and are doing extremely well. So it's no coincidence to me. And I think it ultimately is a combination of this team was toxic, egotistical, toxic players. The management side, no idea. And then we finally get in a coach who wants to instill something, a football side that wants to instill something, and then these players go. So I think it's a combination. I don't think it's one thing. I think it's a combination. Farmers League, when did English team last win the Champions League? City, few seasons before City. Farmers League can rest players for Champions League. A league with all money, but Farmers League seems to consistently win it. The one thing I will say on that is, look, I don't refer to it as Farmers League because I'm just not a big fan of it, right? I will say this is that the top teams in the Spanish League, French League, one team, Bundesliga, can win the Champions League. I think they are, on their day, as good as any of our top teams. The difference for me is competitiveness. Do I think Madrid could come into our league and play as many games competitively and win this league? That is my question mark there. When we're talking about the Spanish league, for example, they're going away to islands. They're going away to an island to play a team on an island. And when I say that, I mean we're talking about these smaller teams, who are, United were abjectly terrible last season, so were Spurs, but yet we were able to make a Europa League final and we played a bunch of Spanish teams. So, all I'm saying here is that I don't like the term Farmers League. I will even back up the chat to some degree and say, look, the top teams in each league would be competitive, but I still think that as a general overall league, that the Premier League is far competitive than every other league. But that is just my opinion. Osman says, hey JB, do you think that United's rebuild has a clear direction, or is it just another cycle? I think they believe they do have one. I do think they do. They won't come out and say it. Wilcox, and again, I will go through some more quotes that he's put on here. Do I think that we know? I think they are being purposefully ambiguous. Do I think that they have a way that they want to play and a plan? I do, because we never had a plan before. I think their plan is as simple as getting proven players, bring them into the squad, and hope that we can improve. I think that is what it is. I think it's as simple as that. Bobby says Madrid and Barcelona, for example, can take it easy in the league on Saturday, and players can play like World Cup final. As United have considerable debt, should United focus on youth or spend big in the next window? Usman again makes some fantastic questions. I think it should be a combination of both. As we've said on here quite a few times, right, is the reason why we can't bring in youth is because we don't have the games. Okay, I think there's a common misconception with youth that you can bring in a youth player and they're gonna tear things up. We've got Shay Lacey, who looks like an amazing player. Now, I've watched the under-21s quite a bit. We've got Leon in there. We've got Bianchi in there. We've got Lacey in there. We've got so many of these good young players. To step up into this team, Usman, in my opinion, you need an environment that gives them that support and brings them in and is able to, bring them in for 2 games, then take them out for 10 games. Now, bring them in for a game and then have the ability to take these players out. If a young player comes in, is the fan base going to give him that time? I've seen some disgusting things even on pre-season where we've got these young players who come in to do a job and then they get called up. They get called out. They get called these horrific, disgusting things. Mainu came in to this squad at 18 years old, and then the moment he has like an off season, now people are calling him up. We don't have the environment, in my opinion, right now to bring in first these youth players to give them the education that we need, because we don't have the players to educate them. I've spoken about this so many times. When we brought the likes of Gary Neville in, Philip Neville, Nicky Butt, Giggs, Beckham, Scholes, we had Schmeichel, Paul Parker, Gary Pallister, Steve Bruce, Irwin, Roy Keane came in, Mark Hughes, Kanchelskis, Ince, McClare. We had so many of these players. You could, so many professionals to bring them in and to bed them, to give them that time. Beckham, for example, Beckham came into this squad when he was 18 or so. I think he played a couple of games and then went on loan and then came back in. Paul Scholes, first season, he played 9 games, centre forward. And then next season, then he came in and then started to play more and more games. But, he had a Roy Keane. So I think the problem, Usman, is that whilst I agree, but until we get a team of professionals and create a platform for these players to succeed, it's very, very, very difficult. Do I think that we should spend big again? I do think we should spend big. I think we need to spend big, bringing these professional players, these senior players in, and then maybe this maybe next Christmas time is that then maybe another year, another cycle of 2 or 3, and another 4 to 5 players who come into the squad. Then maybe we can bring these players in. But we'd be bringing these players in and then be an expectation that these players are going to be the next big thing. We'd be expecting these 18-year-olds to come into the squad and do it. And if they don't do it, then we'll give them abuse. And that for me is the issue. And also, right now, we just don't have the games. We don't have the games to take a chance on a Lacey. We don't have the opportunity or the chance to use a Bianchi or like an OB. And this is where we are. So Jackie says still 11v11 and they need to win so they can win the league. So how can they take it easy? United is very similar to the Italian clubs who were great in the past. We probably are. I think we're very much the AC Milan. Thank you, Anket. Look at the way Bobby is professional v professionals. They still managed to win. I'm going to get into that. Ojman says the only team that have the balance of transfer windows and youth development is Arsenal. Look at them now. It's not if they win, it's when they will win a trophy and how many. And look, agree. Liverpool to a degree as well. You look at Liverpool, you look at the players that they brought through. They're going through a transition now. Chelsea, you look at, they're so inconsistent because they bring in so many youth players that right now they're so inconsistent. If you look through that team, how many real winners and how many real sort of, when they had the likes of Petr Cech, they had the likes of Lampard, they had the likes of Stevie G, they had the likes of Carvalho, they had the likes of, again, they had a Mike Hughes up front, but they had a Drogba up front, they had, they had so many players up front, what winners do they have in this squad? What else? Scott says it's a bit more than that, Sir Jackie. Madrid are a huge club because they can attract players. When Wenger was at Arsenal, that was how to run a football club. Don't spend a fortune, yet you're constantly there or thereabouts. Again, Wenger was an anomaly. When I'm talking about, I was talking about not Liverpool. Not Lampard. Slippy G. JB, there is a knock at your door. Luke Shaw wants to fight. I'd ask him why he wants to fight. I'd ask why Luke Shaw wants to fight. I'm not just going to start to fight a person without a reason. But if Luke Shaw wants to tear up, let's give it a go. I'd always maintain this. Luke Shaw is a stocky old lad. I reckon he can punch hard. So I'd give it a second thought. But if Luke Shaw wants a punch up, let's do it. He said because you've been mean to him. I mean, come on, Luke. I mean, if you want a punch up, look, let's go and have a cup of tea. Look, Luke Shaw probably chuck a punch, miss, pull a hamstring, and he'll be out. That's all I'm saying. Look, I reckon I could outlast Luke Shaw. I don't even reckon I'd need to throw a punch. I reckon dodge and weave, and he'd injure himself. Usman says, would a top 6 finish and 0 trophies be a good season? That's the most reasonable best case scenario. I'd be happy with that. Do I think we're going to win the FA Cup this year? No, I don't. I don't think we're going to win a trophy at all this season. I think top 6 is a good season. I do, and it pains me. It pains me to say it. It pains me to say it. I don't mind we win this league every single season. Is it going to happen? No, it's not. But it keeps standards high. So I do agree with you. A legend. He stopped Terry Monroe. Our Slippy G gave me a year's worth of laughter. Shaw versus JB at Old Trafford 2026. Look, what's Shaw? 30? I'm sure 30, 31. I'm what? 42 years old. I think he'd have a shock of his life. Luke Shaw pulling his hammy. Who's the greatest United academy? Who's the last great academy player? You're probably going to have to say McTominay. Probably him. Ward 9. Do you think Ismail Sarr is a good replacement for Fernandes? I wouldn't replace Ismail Sarr for Fernandes. I do like him though. I do like him. I really, really do like him. I think for me, Stiller would probably be the replacement. But I do like Sarr. Also, I've noticed the running trainers in the back. What are your comfiest pair for road running? My comfiest pair. You said doo-doo. What are my comfiest pair to run in? I would probably say my comfiest pair. I mean, I've got loads down there. I mean, look, I'll give you. Look, Usman, I'll give you a glimpse. I'll give you a glimpse of what I've got. I'll give you a glimpse. I'm going to give Usman a glimpse of what I've got. Right, Usman, and I mean this is not even. This is merely a fraction, right? Basically, there are however many kind. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different kinds. I've got a box over there. I've got more down there as well. I've got a pair. I've got a pair here as well. I've got a pair here as well. I mean, look. I'm just obsessed. But if you're asking me what are my comfiest pair, I'd probably go for these actually. I do really like these. These are called Tia. Tia Maverick Runners #1. These are really, really comfortable actually. Let me just put these back out the way. So yeah, that's just a little insight into my obsession. Noosa tri-trainers are so comfy, says Bobby. The German players do need to work in the do not work in the Premier League. We've seen that in Wirtz, Werner, Keita. So I think Stiller is a big risk. I agree with you. I do think he is. People in Paisley are en route to your house. They won't take anything valuable, but they love to steal your trainers. Mate, look, they could steal the ones in here, and I'd still have enough. With all those trainers, you could run an entire length of the world twice and still have a few pairs left. Scott says, I only wear Air Force 1s or Jordans. MA says hi from Morocco. Hello. Let's get through some of the other quotes as well. So Wilcox, he says, I really feel now this football club, I think I've read that. I look at every department. I'm going to talk about sporting department only because it's unfair for me to talk about any other departments. But when I think about the sporting department, we are making progress in every area. I'd love to be enlightened as to what that is. In every single area, we are making progress, and the fans have been a huge contributor to making sure that we move in the right direction. And ultimately, our plan, our idea is for us to get back or to win for them. I'd love to know what his plan is. Wilcox, inform us of your plan. And again, I just find it fluffy. I just find it really fluffy. It's an MU TV interview, and I just find it fluffy as hell. Shazak says, Scott, you've been wearing socks on a good day if you went to Paisley. JB's favourite footwear is flippers so he can run fast in them. If they have feet big enough, I'm a size 11. Jesus, I'm only a size 9. Let's have a little look. In every single area we are making, they're a huge part of this club. So he's talking about fans. They're a huge part of this football club. Part of history is one thing, but fans, the generations that come to Old Trafford is something special. You can't begin to explain. Is very, very special. I mean, what have we learned? No shit. I mean, like, you know, I've seen people this morning praise this. Jackie says, cash converters. What size? I don't care what size they are. Wilcox, you know, again, I've seen people praising this morning. I'm not getting any context. You know, talking about the football club is moving in the right way. Every department is doing things. He can't talk about their departments. He can only talk about his. They're doing things well. In every single area. What area? I want to know, where have they improved? What have they done? Again, there is no substance to this. And then talking about this club, that fans are part of the history, the generations, which we always talk about on here. We always talk about, fathers, sons. I got asked a question. Why do I continue to do this? Why is it important? To spread the word of this club. Talking about fans, a huge part of the history and this club. I mean, again, I've seen people praise this, and it's just absolute a fluff piece. But there are some interesting things that I will go through in that as well. Steve says, I found it interesting that Ronaldo doing that interview when there was all about the takeover rumours. Anytime Cristiano does anything with Piers Morgan, I find it irritating. I like Cristiano. I do like Cristiano, but I know he did an interview with Piers Morgan just talking about how he doesn't think Amorim can really turn the squad around, can turn this club around. I pay little attention. I really do. Again, Wilcox. This is the guy that is now talking about how our department is going forward. Every area. We're making the right. The choices are making the right. Who says they are? They've got a plan. Going to get us back into winning ways. What's the plan? Say goodbye to your trainers for that comment. What's your plan? I'm not hearing a plan here. He also went on to say last year's summer window wasn't as chaotic as the previous one. It was very calm. We knew the plan. We knew which players we were going to target. And we all had lists. We all knew what areas of the pitch we needed to improve. There was a conversation with Rúben, with himself, to the profile of players that they needed, and the scouts went out and they worked with the data team to get the players. I'll just come back onto that. Who would be your two ideal midfielders in the summer? Look, I think is realistic. I think Anderson, Stiller. I think those two for me. Wharton, I think, is a realistic target as well. Kevin, I do. A Baleba, I do think so. I think one of those four. I think listening to what has been said, I think that we are going to go for Premier League proven. I do. I think we'll go at least one Premier League proven. There were talks of Anderson, and I'm not making this stuff up. There's reports that we're going to put in an £80 million bid for him. And again, Wharton, I think Wharton is a risk. I think Wharton, for me, is a very, very niche player, but I like Wharton. I get it. I do get it. One of Wharton, Anderson, Stiller, and I'd like to get two of those, but it really, really does depend. So going back to what Wilcox said, last year's window was chaotic. I disagree with that. This year's one was very, very calm. We knew the plan, which players that we were going to target, and we all had lists. I mean, again, Wilcox, again, a load of nonsense. Last year's, was it, we got Euro in July last season, we got Xerxes July last season, we got Mazraoui in August, we got De Ligt in August as well. I thought last year's was a little bit more competent. Sheska was fifth choice. He's talking about he was very, very calm, right? So is that why then you were struggling to get a centre midfielder at the end of the window? You said that you knew the positions. So is he saying that their plan this season was to use fucking Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro in a double in a pivot? So what he's saying there, their plan was this season was to use Bruno Fernandes as a number 8 and to basically use Casemiro as a number 6 and have a pivot that's wide open. Because if that's his plan, I have no idea. Was his plan to use Luke Shaw? Was their plan to use a player that basically hasn't played for the best part of 2 years, 3 years. So that was his plan. You know, Šeško wasn't his original plan. Šeško was number 5 on the list after Osimhen. I think Kane was in there. I think Delap was first choice. He decided to go elsewhere. Ekitike was on the list as well. So Šeško was his 5th choice, and then they struggled then to go and get a centre midfielder. So that his plan. So what he's saying is that they were calm, and their plan was to go and get a fifth choice striker, overpay for a Brentford player. Cunha was done. That's fine. I think those two have been exemplary signings, and then Lemens was right at the back end of the window because they weren't going to sign a keeper. So again, he's talking out of his back end. I mean, he's talking. I mean, look, if that is what he thinks, you know, it's nice to know a little bit as to what they do to get their players, but to come out and basically say that last window compared to this one, you know, again, bigging himself up, you know, bigging that up, I think is an absolute crazy statement to make, and I totally disagree with it. I think he's talking out his back end. So, you know, I think the interview was okay. You know, I think he said some stuff. I'm not blown away by it. Grace Sheridan, legend of the chat. Do you think if we got a midfielder over one of Cunha or Mbeumo, people would say we had a good window? Also, was Šeško a bad choice considering the other option we wanted? Good question. I think, and again, you know, I think as a question to pose, I think it's a good question. Interesting one. Very, very interesting one. I like the 2 number 10 signings. I do. I'm not going to lie. I think I'm happy with Šeško. I am happy. I think if we'd have got one of, I think if Osimhen was the one, I think if we could have got Osimhen, I think if we could have got Harry Kane, and I'm not saying that he was on the table, but I think if we could have got our 2nd or 3rd choice, I think that would be better. I think that if we'd have got another midfield player, played Bruno in that 10, Cunha in that 10, Mainu giving that shout with a new number 10, do I think that would have been a better team? Difficult to say. I think it would have been said that we had a better window. I still score the window a 4 or 5. I would score the window a little bit higher based on our position, based on the points that I thought that we would get. So I'm scoring this window higher. I would rather have Mbeumo and Cunha. I think we needed Mbeumo, Cunha, and a midfielder. But I do get what you're trying to say. Look, I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult. Do I think Šeško is a bad choice? No. I am perplexed to what Wilcox has said on the basis that a Delap was our first choice striker. Delap is awful. So I'm glad we didn't pick him up. I like Šeško. I do. I don't think Šeško is a bad choice. Is he a bad choice compared to the other options? I think he's a different option. If we were in the Champions League, then I would say, look, we probably needed an Osimhen. I think Šeško's probably the right signing. Give him time to bed in. So I think he's just a different choice. Do I think he's a bad choice? No, I don't. I just think he's a different option. I think Osimhen Osman for me would have been the one. I think he would have definitely been the player to get. But look, I'm happy with Mbeumo. I'm happy with Cunha. Happy with Šeško. I just wish we could have got a centre midfielder. Gyökeres wanted Arsenal. Ekitike wanted Liverpool. Delapto Chelsea. Look, Gyökeres for me, I was saying that he was the one as well. I'm sort of glad we didn't get him. Gyökeres, I'm sort of glad that we didn't get him. The only thing that I wish Šeško would do is scream for the ball more. I think Gyökeres would have. I think Quenda for me would have been one that I wish we'd have got. But you're right, we got snubbed. We got snubbed by 4 players. I think Quenda again would have been one. Wing backs, Steve says, I agree. Need to go, lads. Fill the cart with petrol. Need to meet a guy in Manchester for a pair of trainers. Jackie on the rob again. So look, guys, I am going to go. Thank you for watching. It's been a long old show again, really, really quickly. Don't know what's going on with YouTube. Don't know if it's just the channel, if the numbers are just low today. But again, guys, you guys are amazing. You guys are the backbone of this channel that keep this channel what it is. Grace says we don't need a wing back. We've got Dalot. Grace, you are losing that. Look, again, Grace, I respect your opinion, Grace, and if that's your opinion, what I'm about to say now is not based on your opinion, because that's your opinion. Dalot is awful. I don't know if you watched the Forest game, Grace. I did. I'm not kidding here. Dalot is one of the worst performances I've seen in a United play for a very, very long time, and it's been consistently bad. I can't get the image of a ball over the top. He was sprinting, and it looked like he was nowhere near it. So Dalot for me has to go. Grace says, "Who's your favourite player?" I don't have a favourite player, Grace. I just don't. And it's not a cop out. It's just I don't have a favourite player. If I'm being honest, none of these players to me. It's almost a bit like when you, I don't know, like if you do something, I don't know. It's almost a bit like, if you can't get the players that you like, then you have to make do, right? These players, the majority of these players, other than a couple of them, are not United players. I don't feel a connection to these players. There are a couple of players that I do like, but right now I don't feel a connection to this team. There's not a single player in this team, other than maybe 2 or 3, that I would probably keep. The rest can go. I am supporting these players. I will support these players. Loopy says, "Are you a teacher?" No, I'm not a teacher. I had seen before. I am not a teacher at all. You probably wouldn't want to be taught by, for God's sake. I am not a teacher, no. So, as Delot's wife, I can say Amrin isn't related to him. Apparently he is, but that's a rumour. So look, guys, I am going to go. Amazing show as always. Absolutely brilliant. All I can say is thank you guys for being here, the backbone of this channel. You do really make this channel what it is. Absolutely amazing. Lippy says, "I'm studying in Germany." Welcome. I don't know any German at all, but you guys, you amazing. Thank you so much for being here. You are the backbone of the channel. I will be back tonight at some point. I'm hoping that the numbers can be higher tonight. My teacher looked like you. Obviously must be a really, really handsome guy then. I'm kidding. Yeah, the guys, legends, thank you for supporting this channel. It really, really means a lot to me. So I will be back tonight. John says, how are you? I'm very well, John. Any takeover news? There's none, mate. The stock price has gone down as well. If there is any news, I will bring you that news. Of course, I will do. But yeah, currently there is no news to report on that. If he says I subscribed to a month ago, thank you for being here for a month. I appreciate it. Really do. So thank you so much for being here. As I say, look, you guys support the channel. You guys are the backbone of this channel. Look, Grace, I don't know. These afternoon shows normally do quite well. Look, it could just be me. Could just be the channel. Who knows? It could just be the topic is boring. It could just be people are sick and tired of me. You just don't know. But guys, you guys are legends. You guys are the backbone of this channel. So you know, whenever I do things and I come on here, you know, it's always nice to talk to the normal gang, the everydayers, the normal crew. So this is a big thank you from me to you guys. So I will be back this evening. Hope you can join me. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And I'll speak to you tonight. So have a good one, and I'll see you later. Talk about before I go. Talk about. I think. I love it. I love it, guys. See you guys tonight, and see you later.